Hi y'all, it's Kimberly here. Thank you all for coming to my channel. Thank you so much. I did a video a while back about karate kicks to the balls. And that video got me more views than any video that I have so far. Which I really thought the one where the serial rapist nearly killed me, I thought that one would get the most views, but it didn't get very many views. This one got the most. I think y'all are, I'm kind of crooked here. Okay. I was just gonna, well, I did get quite a few comments on that, mostly from Chris C. and Amanda A. I got a lot of comments on that video, and I just wanted to clear up some things, or just elaborate on it a little bit, that in the school I went to, it was more family friendly, and when we sparred, we only could hit basically just in the body and the front of your leg muscles. You couldn't hit the arms or the legs because they didn't want to break joints, and we had to sign all kinds of waivers and stuff like that. So it was real safety conscious kind of place, and I liked that because I didn't want to get hurt. I just wanted to learn self-defense, because there are some dojos that they're real gung-ho and real almost cult-like. They kind of tell you who to hang around with, and don't hang around with these people from this other dojo, or this other, they don't want you to do different disciplines of martial arts. They want to control you pretty much. And there was a place like that in town, and one of the students that was coming to our school, she went to that school just for a few months. She said she wanted it more, like a more aggressive, she was a real tournament fighter, and she wanted, to train a little bit more aggressively, and so she went to that dojo for a few months, and then she came back, and she was saying, she just didn't like the atmosphere. It was real controlling, like they tried to tell her what to eat, and not to talk to any of us, I mean, she was still friends with a lot of us, and would come to the dojo like on the weekends or something when we were training, and they tried to stop her from doing stuff like that, and just, they did some weird stuff, trying to control different aspects of her life and everything. And those kind of dojos I would stay away from personally. I would, in my opinion, I would not, I took martial arts for self-defense. I didn't do it for any kind of ego or any kind of, I don't know. I always had an interest and a fascination with martial arts, and I watched all the Bruce Lee stuff, all the movies and everything, and all the, on Saturday mornings they used to have these movies on in the morning, and sometimes they would have, and late at night, especially on the weekends, they would have like the B movies and stuff, and I would watch those, and the martial art movies. I used to love to, I'd stay up till 1 or 2 in the morning watching those, and I just always had a fascination with it. And then when that happened to me, when I was assaulted, I decided I was going to take self-defense, so I could learn to defend myself. And as far as kicking the guys in the balls, it wasn't something I did intentionally. I will say maybe the instructor, because he did give us like this, it was kind of more of a joke, but he did say, 1 kick per year to the nuts. And so I did try to get mine in, and I got it a couple of times, and I got in good once, real good. But other than that, nothing was ever intentional, I mean, we were allowed to do crotch kicks to the guys because they were wearing a cup. If they weren't wearing a cup, you couldn't do it, It wasn't about hurting or injuring anybody. And we really didn't have a big problem with guys being too rough or too mean, to the girls. And there was a lot of respect for the women in the class, and the guys really, after I told my story, and a few other women had told, things about what had happened to them, and that's the reason why they were there, a lot of the guys, they had a better understanding of sparring with women. And I don't know if this is like across the country, but in Texas, it's, there's a lot of yes ma'am, a lot of respect for women in a way. and just in the general way of opening doors and stuff like that, we still, I mean, little kids do that, little boys do that for women, you know, and it's just so cute when they do that. You know, you're in the store and they run to open the door for you, you know, and it's just so cute. And we never really had hard problems like that, you know, and we always had guys always trying to help us, and even some of the teenage guys, after I got to a certain level, they would be a little bit scared to spar me because I was really fast. I was not a power puncher or a kicker, but I did have a really good, I'm right-handed, so after a while I did develop, you know, really good skill, really good placement and with my punches, but I was very fast, and sometimes I could get in, you know, more points and hit them like 10 times more than they can even hit me or kick me, and it would scare them, you know, and I would tell them, you know, just calm down. They would get very stiff and I hate fighting somebody who is a beginner who's so scared of you, because then that's when they start hurting you. They'll just hit you anywhere and they'll forget about the, you know, the rules that we had, and, you know, don't hit the joints and don't hit your arms because you don't want to break their arms or their shins. You know, it's not about hurting people. It's about contact, you know, about hitting certain contact points. So when you're really, you know, out in real life, you practice that so much. And I've told friends and people, don't sneak up behind me. Don't do that, you know, because I will punch you. You know, and because I've had a few people think it was funny, you know, to do that. And I'm, you know, very serious about it. Don't do that, you know. And I'm very, very skilled at, you know, laying out somebody. I've never hurt anybody, but I've had some really, I've had the girls, some of the girls that I fought that were black belts were really, really tough, were tougher on me than sparring with the guys. The guys, you know, they just didn't want to hurt women. They didn't, you know, we never had any issues with that, with any guys wanting to hurt women. There's a couple of jerks that did come in the dojo, but there was one guy, he was an ex-Marine, and he thought he was so tough, and he had taken a few other disciplines, and then he came to this place, which was family-friendly, and they told him that. And the first time that he sparred with a woman, he was, like, punching her really hard, and they're like, the instructor had to tell him, whoa, you know, we're just doing this for fun, you know, don't be killing people here. And they had to stop him, like, 5 or 6 times, and by the end of the week, they told him, I think the last straw was he was sparring this lady that was about 70-something years old, and she was really good, you know, but she's 70, you know. There's only so far that, you know, you can go with somebody who's at that age, you know. Their reflexes are slower, their joints are slower, and he was, you know, pounding her to the ground, and they had to, like, 2 or 3 people had to step in and stop him, and after class, they kind of, I think he thought it was out of arrogance that he thought, oh, I'm being asked to, you know, stay after class with all the black belts and everything, and because sometimes the upper belts would stay and we'd spar with each other, do a couple of rounds, you know, while the other underlings left, and he kind of thought it was like a good thing, but he was going to be taught a lesson, and they kind of, I wasn't there, but they told me about it the next day, and he wasn't there. They told him he left because I sparred with him, and he was pretty tough, but I was really fast, and I think he was, like, kind of taken aback by that, you know, that a woman can kick that fast or do that, you know, and well, they kind of roughed him up a little bit, and so, you know, he never came back, and that, so they kind of controlled that, you know, and it's up to the instructors or the owners of the school to do that. They usually make you sign a waiver so you don't get hurt, or if you do get hurt, you are aware that it's your responsibility, your insurance, or your cost, or whatever. And they do have a responsibility to make sure it's safe. You know, if there's issues with them just allowing people to beat you up, I mean, I think that might be I don't know, some legal liability for them, I would think, you know, as a business owner still. But most of the places make you sign a waiver anyway, and they usually detail, you know, what kicks you can do, or they usually detail things in class for the safety of it. And I did get kicked in the shins one time by a girl she was a black belt or brown belt, and she was always real tense and real scared, you know, and but she was a really good fighter, but she was scared to fight other people. And then she was sparring with me one day, and she just kicked me in the shin really hard. She nearly broke my leg. And I went to the ground, and then I got up a few seconds later, or kind of 10 or 20 seconds later. I was trying to shake it off, and it softened my bone. Eventually, I went to the doctor about 2 weeks later. It just was getting sore, more and more sore. Well, she didn't break my leg, so I didn't go to the doctor. I just thought, it's a bruise, But she had internally bruised it and softened the bone. And if I hadn't had such good, if I hadn't drank all my milk and drank so much calcium or ate calcium, it would have broke my leg. If I'd have had brittle bones or something like that, it would have broke my leg. And it was, I still have like a little bump on it where it recalcified. And I've got my fingers bent backwards. I've been kicked in I got kicked in my hip one time, a little tough by a beginner. Every time I got hurt, it was from sparring a beginner. Because they don't know and they don't understand, they're so scared, that you're going to beat them up. And I would always have to, I'm only 5'3", and some of the guys, the teenage guys that I would spar, they're way bigger than me. These teenage kids are huge nowadays. And I was fighting like 13-year-olds that were 2 inches taller than me, and I think one guy, this is off the subject, but he was in 6th grade. He was 13, and he was like a couple inches taller than me, and he came up to me, he goes, "What school do you go to?" And look at, I was 29 or 30 years old at that point, but I always looked young for my age, and I go, I graduated already. And I think he was like he kept following me around for a couple of days before that, and he was wanting to spar me, and he wanted to pair up with me one time when we were doing these exercises. He just ran over and got in my way, like we're supposed to pick a partner or something. He just ran over to me, and I was like, okay. And I think he liked me, That was hilarious. Being hit on by a 13-year-old. And I never really had too many problems with the guys. And we just kind of talked to the guys in a way that, no, we're not as strong as you. But some of the techniques that we learned, for me to get away from somebody huge now, I would have to throw like a destroy tactic or do some kind of destroy maneuver. I would have to hurt them to get away from them, because I can't get out of a lot of grips. I do know how to do some ground fighting, and I can do some leg locks and arm bars and stuff like that, but there's so much that it takes strength to get out of those if you're in an arm bar or something like that, so I may have to take a chunk and bite their arm or something, and there's a lot of tactics. Poking the eyes out is my favorite thing. I'll poke your eyes out or kick you in the balls. That's like the best. If somebody's going to attack you, that's one of the best moves. If a woman's really being assaulted, they're going to drag you off somewhere to do something to you. Poke them in the eyes, gouge their eyes out, and grab their eye. I don't have any problem doing it, because after what's happened to me, just don't turn around and grab your brother's eye out if he taps you on the back, or, your coworker, don't kick them in the balls, something like that. This is like, I'm talking like if you're going down the street or you're trying to get to your car and somebody tackles you and, is trying to, already got their hands on you, do something, poke them in the eye, jab them in the throat, there's so many self-defense tactics that you can use, And that's what I learned in class, and I learned a lot of it by having the guys, after a bunch of us girls, we did tell a little bit of our story to some of the adults in the class. Sometimes I would have a separate class from the kids, because I would teach more advanced techniques, and they didn't want to teach the kids all these things. It depends on their maturity level and their age sometimes. And in the upper class, we did one night, I remember we did this, and we told, we discussed it amongst ourselves, and then we told the guys, we do want to learn to spar, and we don't want y'all to be not wanting to fight us, because we understood that part, you know, that they, you know, some guys, you know, they have too much respect. They don't want to hurt women. They've been taught all their life, you don't kick, punch, or you don't hurt women, you know. And then they get in this class and they're expected to start kicking the crap, you know, out of women, you know. And mentally they can't get a hold of that. But we told them, you know, think of it as your mother, your sister, or somebody being hurt. What would you teach them? You know, how would you teach them to get away? And, you know, you do have to toughen yourself up a little bit when you go into these classes. You can't be crying all the time. You can't be, you know, oh, that hurts. Oh, I don't want to do it. You know, you have to mentally toughen yourself up, because those techniques are worthless. You know, if you're in that frame of mind, then, you know, all that self-defense, it just goes out the window if you get assaulted. Nothing's gonna work for you if you're not in the right frame of mind. And as far as kicking the guys in the balls, like I say, they either had to be wearing a cup. This is in my school. I don't know how it is in other places, but, and yeah, sometimes I didn't really do that because I didn't really care to do it, but the times that I did do it were an accident. And sometimes I did do like the air shots to the crotch, and I would, if they were open, I would do a snap kick and just, you know, we'd look at each other and go, oh, okay, that was a point, you know. And I didn't even make contact, you know, because I really didn't care to make contact, you know. It wasn't about, you know, constantly kicking guys in the balls. It had nothing to do with that. And it's just occasionally, you know, that is a self-defense tactic that we were allowed to use and utilize in class. And I think in some tournaments it was allowed. It depends on the tournaments, who's running the show or whatever. And I did fight in a couple of the, when they didn't have a women's division, I did have to fight in the teenage boys division a couple of times. And one of them was, I threw the guy out of the ring. Well, it was, if I did it again, I would be disqualified, but I didn't do it on purpose. I think I kicked him or something, or he just kind of grabbed onto me, and so I just threw him off of me, which he wasn't really supposed to be grabbing onto me. We weren't doing grappling, so, and I didn't do that many tournaments. I only did it for like a few months, but I really loved it, and, I don't think I'll ever do it again because I'm just older and I'm fat and out of shape and my joints hurt. I would love to do kickboxing for exercise or something, work on a heavy bag. I would like to maybe someday put up a heavy bag and work on that. And that's another way to get a lot of really good form on your kicks, is using a heavy bag. And your punches too. I mean, you don't have to just spar on a person. You can use a heavy bag. And that really helps a lot, especially for the lower kicks. You can do combinations, kicks, and plus put in your punches too. And that really, I guess, I was surprised that that video got the most views, being kicked in the balls. But I guess it's funny, yeah. Sometimes it is funny, it's hilarious, it makes me laugh, but it's more because it's so, you know, guys are so much bigger, stronger, and they can, you know, pretty much out-muscle you, and within the second that happens, man, they just crumple, you know. And it just, I don't know why, but it just does. It makes a lot of people laugh, you know, and as long as they're okay, you know. Well, I just want to clear that up, you know. That video was just about, you know, accidental kicks. I should have put accidental kicks maybe, I guess, but except for the one that I gave my instructor, which, that was a good one. It was good. I'm not sorry about that one. But I'll see y'all later. But thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Like, comment, and subscribe.